Well, here I am again. This time I thought I would just put up the armies. This is on the backdrop of putting together my Boxer Rebellion campaign I had with my group. You know, a year ago I really didn't care much about colonialism and didn't really know much about it, to be honest with you. And I knew nothing about the Boxer Rebellion until I watched the movie 55 Days in Peking. And then I saw the movie The Last Emperor, and I got interested almost immediately on some of the events that were happening during the late 1800s and 1900s. What a fascinating history, how it played into my own, how it affected all of our countries, and especially China. What a fantastic, rich history. And it was just a small conflict, but it had long-ranging effects that we can even see today. But why did they call it the Boxer Rebellion? I really didn't understand that either, but then found out it was because the foreigners looked at these rebels, let's call it, and they were doing martial arts, boxing in the wind. But the history goes very, very deep. All they wanted to do was get rid of the foreigners who had changed their society so much. And the imperial Chinese, they also were thinking this is a good thing to get rid of the foreigners that were carving up their country. It was a disaster for them, to be honest. And the foreign powers that were there, the British, the French, the Russians, the Germans, the Americans, the Japanese, the Italians, the Austrians, you name it, were all changing Chinese society away from their traditional ways of doing things. And it had everything to do with money, economy, trade, religion, those types of things. And they just revolted. And they decided to pick a battle with all 8 or 9 major powers all at the same time. Well, that was pretty gutsy. So I decided to build the armies and look at the history and recreate it with my gaming buddies. So anyway, hey, let's take a look at the armies that I built. Anyway, here's the full Boxer / Imperial Chinese army. It's all from Blue Moon, the whole shebang. Anyway, it just finished a huge campaign of the Boxer Rebellion, which I'll be posting as well, or will have before this. Really, a really fun game. I would encourage you to watch it. It was really outstanding. This army is all Blue Moon, 15 millimeter from their colonial range, the Boxer Rebellion. This is a force of Chinese imperial troops with artillery and some Kenshu Braves that you see so colorfully painted in red and yellow. I used various figures for that, kind of matching what I saw on manuscripts and other places of what they might have looked like. Took a little bit of license there as well. But the Boxer units themselves, they turned out really nicely. I've organized them in stands of 6 for the game that I was playing. I guess you could make them even smaller or larger. You could do a skirmish game with them pretty easily. The flags I pulled off of the web and made them myself. Cavalry is also 2 imperial units and 1 Mongolian. I think they really turned out quite nicely. I had to paint a couple of extra units for my game, and that was painted a bit in haste, but I added, I think, 3 Chinese imperial units and 2 Boxers and some Cav and the Kenshu Braves and some artillery, different things like that. But anyway, kind of getting it a little bit closer, you can see that they look really nice in their entirety. We've got some peasants too. Those were used very effectively during our game. And of course, I still have it here on the backdrop of the imperial city. So that kind of fits a little bit of the showcase of the army. The Imperial Chinese troops are very, very interesting sculpts. I think they painted up really well and interesting, but I kind of have to argue a little bit of the uniform choice that they made. If I look at the Osprey books and I look at some other books that I have with their uniforms, they don't seem to quite have those caps until about 1907, 1908. During the Boxer Rebellion, they've looked, at least from my resources, looked a bit different. But hey, that's what they had, and that's what I went with. I used some French Foreign Legion officers that I had for the Chinese leaders, made some modifications to them, but I think they turned out pretty nicely. And of course, Blue Moon has a great range of just various figures, and I just took license. Some of these boxers I purchased from another gentleman, which blended into my army, so they're not all painted by myself. I would say maybe 50% of the army is, but I blended them in to make them look like the rest, so I think it turned out pretty nicely. Anyway, I hope you liked what I put together here. I think they're beautiful, and they were a lot of fun to play with, to be honest. Blue Moon did a really good job with the sculpting and the figures, and I had a lot of fun putting it together. Anyway, let's take a look at the foreign powers and see what they look like, because, well, they were the antagonists. So now let's take a look at the other side. So this is a mixed bag of troops, small units, maybe one per nation or two at the most. Americans, Germans, Russians, Japanese. You didn't need too many of them. They had massive amounts of firepower, and really pretty tough to beat. They can take on a whole Chinese army almost by themselves. Well, here's the foreign powers army. If I was going to put up a Chinese and Boxer one, I've got to do this one as well. This one is a little bit smaller, but I have to say very, very interesting, because it has basically all the different nations and their different artillery pieces. Probably have way too many pieces of artillery that was actually used, but it's fun to have all the different pieces when you need them. But there's Italians, and there's Germans, and French. There's a couple of Marine battalions of Brits and Russians, and we have some more Brits, and Japanese cavalry, Japanese infantry, and U.S. Marines. So pretty much everybody is part of this force. So I really had a good time building it. And once again, I bought some of these figures from a friend of mine in England and morphed them into what army I already had. So it kind of made for a nice mix. But nonetheless, I really like them. They look really great. I'll see if I can get into a little bit closer here. The Blue Moon figures really are superb, I think, and you know, they're based such that you can use them for pretty much any colonial rules, to be honest. I just tried using Death in a Dark Continent. Worked fantastic. We modified a couple of stats for boxers, but in reality, everybody had a lot of fun. It played great, although it was supposed to be for Africa. It played well to Asia. And I've heard people using of the Men Who Would Be Kings. You can use Hail Caesar. You can use a lot of different rule sets. You can do skirmish or larger units, but anyway, it's a fun period, and you can really basically pull these into anything. You can use your Marines, U.S. Marines, for different expeditions in North America, Canada, Morocco, the Philippines, You can use the Japanese as well, the Russians. But I think that, this is one of those foreign expeditions that everybody really, really participated in. See, look at that. It's really, really nice figures. That's for sure. And of course, there's the model for the for Betsy that was created inside the legation. I think that's a very nice model that they've put together. But you can see the quality of the figures are really good. The painting is all right. I think it works great for what we're doing. And yeah, I think they look pretty good. So it'll be a short movie because I'm going to add this onto the campaign that we just finished playing. But yeah, everybody likes, the colonial wars, and I think that these work out great. Thanks. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing the Chinese, the Boxers, and the Imperial armies. It's quite a force, and I really hope that you enjoy it. If you did, watch the game we had this last weekend with my friends and my buds, and I think you'll see these things in action. Anyway, I enjoyed showing them to you, and if you have any questions, just shoot me off a note, or if you see something I've done wrong or I need to change, as many of you do, which I always appreciate very much, please do so. You guys take care. Thanks.